So we're going to start with a chant that many of you know. Some of you may not. Hopefully you can learn it if you don't know it. That Lanello loved to give. Our prophet. Om Triambakam Yejamahe Sungandim Pushtavardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshya Mamritat. Om Triambakam Yejamahe Sungandim Pushtavardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshya Mamritat. Om Triambakam Yejamahe Sungandim Pushtavardhanam Urvarukamiva Bandhanat Mrityor Mukshya Mamritat. And then the easier one. Om Namo Narayanaya, 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 Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya, 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 Om Namo Narayanaya. Yud Hey Vav Hey, Yud Hey Vav Hey, Yud Hey Vav Hey, Yud Hey Vav Hey, Yud Hey Vav Hey. Nook pa nook, nook pa nook, nook pa nook, nook pa nook. Vajra Sattva come, Vajra Sattva come. Vajra Sattva come, Vajra Sattva come. Om Ahum Vajra Guru Padma Siddhi Om. 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 I, Lanello, come, feathered with my headdress, to speak to you, O soul, of sacred sites, sacred ceremonies, sacred times, when our hearts beat as one, our minds were clear, as the eternal sky. Our soul's spirit soared among the stars, and we knew the Great Spirit and all of its height, breadth, depth, both within and without. The Spirit speaks unto you from within this day of encouragement, of honor, of integrity, of sincerity. Long, long ago, here and throughout these greater environs, indeed was a power center of light, consciousness, beingness. An ancient civilization manifest before your recent recorded history was evidence of God consciousness, which we would term super consciousness. Indeed, giants walked these environs, but greater than these were the God men and God women who understood the divine science of life, the mathematics of the universe, the architecture of the cosmos, and of how man and women were created in the image and likeness of Elohim in the beginning. With divine knowledge, holy wisdom, and true understanding of the purpose of life and of all the divine sciences that exist within the mind of God, these beings created a civilization of light based on their understanding of solar cycles, the cycles within the body temple itself in relationship to these, and of how man was commissioned by Elohim to incarnate and to fulfill her purpose in these temples of God glory. Though mankind en masse have lost their connection with their source and the understanding of these ancient traditions and knowledge, though many are no longer tethered to the truth of their own being, you have come here as initiates of the sacred fire to remind them of their purpose, their God estate, their divine essence. And by and large, many of you are on spec to accomplish your own full God self-realization in this or the next lifetime, realizing your true and noble nature and ascending into the spiritual realms, other higher dimensions, to then invest yourselves in the greater work as spirit sparks of the One. Far beneath Giant's Playground, and throughout this region, as well as other sacred sites around the earth, there existed divine technologies, and these were utilized both as physical power centers, and more importantly, spiritual, sacred centers of light, to broadcast this divine energy in a far and wide grid to an entire civilization, ennobling the best in man, the brightest in women, the most holy and pure of vibrations and frequencies that a soul embodied could actually bear within their temple, inculcating within them, through the divine science of that era, spiritual technology, as your beloved Julie has referenced it. And these noble solar sciences are returning to mankind at this time, specifically to those who qualify to receive it through their own attainment of harmony, balance, equanimity, and peace within. For you to understand the depths, the heights, and the breadths of these greater technologies, you must ascend daily in spirit, to acknowledge them and to commune with your cosmic masters and spirits of light. And understanding them, then commit to utilize this understanding only for the benefit of all beings and the ennoblement of all life streams embodied upon earth. This you have done as keepers of the flame, and now as keepers of the lightning. Yes, lightning descended in these environs. Lightning from the great central sun, lightning from the Pleiades, lightning from Sirius and other star systems. And dearest ones, as the light arced from these great starry centers in your heavens unto the earth, there was broadcast through the grid a tremendous manifestation of what would raise consciousness, glorify God within this domain. And this science, coming back to initiates and those who understand what is at stake in this hour, will continue to inspire, empower, and enlighten mankind through those to whom has been entrusted this ancient knowledge, this divine science. As you study, as you intuit what God is speaking unto you daily through your own communion, through your meditation, through your relationship with the sun itself and each star in the heavens, which, as you know, itself is a solar being. You will come into greater God self-realization, knowing your true potential, realizing your divine nature, and allowing there to be subsumed within you that God consciousness, that super consciousness that is necessary for the promulgation of holy truth, divine wisdom, Theosophia throughout this planet. We are gathered in a sacred circle where each of you may feel resonance with your brother, your sister, as one being. And so long as you commit to this unity field of beingness and engage daily in your spiritual work to accomplish the seemingly miraculous of maintaining that state of dynamic equilibrium in which you are truly one with God, one with nature, one with the Divine Mother and Mother Earth herself. Then, dearest ones, realizing this high potential and the high ideal, you will be able to broadcast cosmic waves and holy frequencies to give birth within the earth to this new solar civilization of Aquarius dawning. It dawns within you daily and hourly if you choose to so associate with your divine masters and sponsors, your guides, your holy guardians, and with those spirits such as those gathered round you now in white and pink in blue and gold, who are also committed unto you to inspire you, to revolutionize through you all that is essential for the new Aquarian model to descend in full, blooming manifestation right within your midst. O Holy Ones, the Tulkus, the Initiates, the Brahmins, the Lamas, the sacred ones who have walked within these sites, have also embedded within them glyphs of light, engrams of power, dynamics of the heavenly worlds, that they have accessed through their own dispensations, and by God's grace, they have been able to sanctify and re-energize aspects of these divine technologies, so that all who eventually will come here will receive the blessings and the initiations necessary for their victorious lives wherever they live upon and across the earth. We are now blending the energies of those such as Julie Ryder and the Tulku and others who are aware of their holy purpose, who are aware of the divine design of the earth itself and of these power grids, ley lines, and energy vortices and centers, and who work consciously day after day to activate and reactivate these grids and to bring forth the cosmic frequencies that will indeed instill within mankind the God power necessary to do away with what is no longer required upon earth as the darkness. Truly it is a dawning of a golden crystal age. You are seeing it manifest within your lives and in greater manifestations through your sacred work, through your circles of activity and heart centers and other groups throughout the world. Dearest ones, continue this work with the full fervor and fire of your hearts. Do not deny that you are God in manifestation. For when you feel that sacred connection, when you are engaged in this cosmic activity, more power, God power, flows through you than you realize. And the grid is indeed heightened and activated to a new and cosmic and Buddhic level. So my voice, as you hear it, is carrying far and wide and echoing throughout this region, these sacred monuments of light, these stones of God consciousness. And as I anchor through the power of the Holy Spirit, the Great Spirit, these words, the souls of mankind who are ready to be awakened, hear them, even if outwardly they do not recognize the totality of the message. They will feel the impelling force and the dynamics of what is at stake and how they must turn to the light, to the sun, as the sunflower does. And dearest ones, as you plant many more seeds across the earth through this divine activity, you will see a tremendous boon and grace manifesting in your individual cities and habitats, your towns and villages. You will notice souls who heretofore have been asleep and unawakened to these higher truths, suddenly and victoriously smiling and realizing that God does indeed beat their hearts, that the divine spirit lives within them. And when they feel this impulse, when they feel the threefold flame, the fire of God beating within their hearts, well, watch the magic occur. Watch the cosmic manifestation of what will transpire. Truly, the dawning of something magnificent, even during your lifetime. Precious ones, as I spoke long ago to the various tribes that were warring, in the Midwestern and Northern states of what you call America. I called them to unity, to beingness within the Great Spirit, who has fashioned each of us in that sacred image of light. And when they heard my call, my prayer, and my words, even the stars, the plants, the trees, the rocks, cried out for that unity, that oneness. And how could they otherwise live, save as brothers and sisters? So through you I call mankind again to unity. Let all the tribes put aside their differences, and let mankind en masse live as one being, breathing as one, hearts beating as one, lives fashioned in that divine image again as one. Yes, I, Lanello, call the tribes to reason, and smoke the peace pipe and burn the sage, smudging the teepees and the homes with what will clear entities, discarnates, and nether beings out from among us, so that all may live in truth and honor and integrity. Do you hear the wind, the gentle breeze among the trees? And do you feel the Great Spirit now moving through you as never before, to know your cosmic purpose as a being of light embodied upon earth? If you can know this truth with a certainty, dearest hearts, then all will become clear unto you as you live day by day to understand how God is looking unto each of you. The Divine Spirit is requiring each of you to fulfill your mission, your holy purpose, for it is essential for planetary ascension and God's self-realization. So I call to the four winds and the four directions and the beings thereof to come into the sacred circle now and empower these initiates with all that they require moving forward from this day and from this recent 4-day conference, to energize them into a new state of divine beingness, to give them the gifts of the Spirit that each one requires, and to activate day after day in their lives the light of truth for them to share among their brothers and sisters. I see it manifesting through each of you. I see the God glory in your auras and in your lives. And I, Lanello, will be with each of you through your tests, your trials, your physical pain, and I will endure with you unto the end of the casting out of the dweller and the welcoming into your being of your own solar presence and all of its glory and dynamic God love, wisdom, and power. I now bless each of you as I anoint you with holy oil, the sap of the sacred tree, the amber of golden light. And as this golden light flows through your bloodstream, you are healed of all that you release now that no longer serves you upon your mission. I am your servant always, your guide, your guardian, your friend, upon the initiatic path of holy love. Blessings always. and the I am me. So Lanello showed me that all the places that many of us have been to, the sacred places around the world, he was before and during this heart stream connecting through lines of cosmic force. So Machu Picchu, the pyramids, the Giza power plant, Mount Shasta, temples in India, the Kamakura Buddha in Japan that we visited, the sacred temples in Taiwan, many of them, at least 5, including the one that was the Jade Temple, which was phenomenal. Christ of the Andes, Stonehenge, and the other henges in the British Isles. And even though we didn't get to Ayers Rock in Australia, we were close enough to connect with it in spirit, as well as many other sacred sites. And he also showed me, I lived in Carbondale, Illinois for a year, my senior year of high school, and there was a place called Giant City State Park with gigantic rocks. And I was there a number of times with friends climbing and rappelling. And I had a class as a senior in high school called Outdoor Education. And we learned how to rappel, orienteer, and climb rocks, and I got credit for it. And Giant City is, I mean, they called it that because of the giant rocks. And I didn't realize until today, when I came here again, my God, it was right there. And another megalithic site. You've heard of it, right? Giant City State Park, near Carbondale, Illinois, the very southern tip of Illinois, where I grew up. So I'm going to have to go back and kind of reinvestigate the amazing rock formations. They were huge. They were like this. And, of course, everybody was more into rappelling. Everybody would go there to rappel off the edge. But looking back now, I realize God put me there for a reason, you know, even though my family grew up in a suburb of Chicago. So all of these sacred power plants and sacred sites, well, he explained it in the stream. They were power plants, but not just for physical power. It was spiritual power, and they empowered the grid and vast areas around here. So I think we kind of got what he said he would talk about, Joyce, about the cities, you know, the civilization. Does anybody have any quick questions for Lanello? I tell you, I've never heard a heartstream that I could hear bouncing off the rocks. It was like carrying for miles. So this is like perfect reflecting, amplifying the words. Yes, Ken?
So the power plant, Lanello made a very distinct impression of lightning from the other planetary bodies. So
the stars,
these other
yeah.
planetary bodies are, whether physically visible but spiritual, lightning power that would resonate and tone with these sites,
Right.
and there then be broadcast out to the
Yeah, and it was for the purpose of stabilizing the earth, but also enlightening. Remember, mankind fell? We were created like gods, but then we fell, or they fell, and during the fourth root race. Yeah, and then many of us came with Sana Kumara from Venus and other star systems to save mankind and teach them the way, right? So they fell to a low degree. So there had to be this, like a re-empowering and activation of the earth, otherwise the earth was going to be destroyed. So this was part of that, is to, you know, protect the earth, but also to reactivate the flame within the hearts of mankind. So it wasn't just Shambhala where we came first. There were other power centers established eventually, even though that was one of the most ancient ones. I think it was the most ancient. Yes.
Who did Lanello say that is going to empower us?
Empower, enlighten, and inspire.
Yeah.
So that we can in turn do that with others.
But I mean, like, which ascended masters or angels?
All of them, but he was the spokesperson today.
Oh.
And he came as Hiawatha with his headdress.
Yes.
So I don't know, if you're clairvoyant, maybe you saw it.
He was sitting there with his
Yeah.
headdress. And sometimes
Yeah.
he was just Lanello, but he was sitting there with his big headdress.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
Lanello was sitting here with his big headdress.
Yeah.
She saw it.
That's what he
Yeah.
Who told you what she said?
So it just took me when you said that. There's an actual plastic map, I'll send it to you, that I saw in the back of the door in a fishing place. And I immediately bought it because it's Google Earth map made for fishing. And the whole thing is an Indian head. Feathers, beaded headdress, in the landscape of geosculpture.
Wow.
And I'm going, that's the Native American connection, because we have all these other ones, right? And it borders the Missouri River, and the river's took off a little bit of its nose. Other than that, it's perfect. Every feather, every beaded dress. And so when you were talking, I thought, I haven't seen a lot of the Native American culture here. And then it hit me. That's it. I will gift you with one of these. They're like,
Great.
you roll it up and it's a plastic map.
Oh, thank you.
So yeah, that's exactly what is there in the landscape, and it's huge. It's huge. I haven't measured you yet, but I'm guessing it's at least 100 square miles. Looking down from the board. Yeah, because one next to us, 96. So that's just a wild guess. I haven't found it on Google Earth yet. I can only see it on the map that they made for the fishermen.
Well, I have to say, this was one of the most cosmic heartstrings I've ever heard. I mean, it was so powerful. I felt like the Elohim were actually speaking through him, kind of. When he raised his voice and projected it, and I got to hear it again. And I have to hear it for the first time because I was delivering it. But I hope the audio captured the reverberation. I guess we'll find out. Any other questions?
I captured the birds.
Yeah, the bird.
So they joined you about halfway through. About halfway through, they joined in the choir.
Oh, yeah.
They watched and they listened, and then halfway through, they started.
Yeah.
Since I was a teenager, I used to dream that I was walking inside the earth with somebody else. I don't remember the works I did, but many times I've been walking through passages in the earth. So
Now you can walk through that passage.
Yes, I'm just curious about the giants. I don't know much about the giants.
Well, there was the bad giants, but I think there may have been, hopefully there were some good giants too. I mean, we know that the Nephilim were produced from when the fallen angels took women and slept with them, and then they created these giants, the Nephilim. So those are not the good guys. And they were, like Goliath, and, they walked the earth, and there's bones that have been discovered all over the place, and they've kind of hidden them, and they don't want mankind to know that there were these privileged civilizations with giants. But I think that there were other civilizations from other star systems that obviously are larger than us. So I don't know that all of them were bad. I think maybe Julie knows more about that, but I think some of them were men of stature, men of great power, but if they used the light wisely, then they were working for good, and if they didn't, they were working for the darkness. So, does anybody else? I mean, there's a book by...
One of the early subroot races of the fourth root race was 9 to 12
Yeah, they
feet
were
high.
large. Yeah.
They were, while the Manu was
Right.
in the course of kind of like creating these subroot races that can from one to one to one, eventually culminated in the Atlantean race. He was refining it from a much more spiritual archetype, and one of them was really tall.
They were tall, yeah. Just like we had
Yeah.
giant threefold flame. Our threefold flame was bigger. Our auras were huger. We lived 1,000 years old.
Yeah.
So I think we were bigger stature then.
In a lot of the Indian mounds, they found these 11-foot tall chiefs.
Yeah.
They were the tall ones, 11-foot tall.
Yeah, so I think they were the good ones too.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath and go with me. But on my website, I have photographs of entire mountains that are biological, physical beings. There was one in Spain that I've been working with. He climbs into the ear and does a whole medical thing about every vein, artery, bone is exactly perfectly correct, fossilized. The mouth, the eyes. I have my website pictures of an eye of a huge dragon. It is anatomically correct to 22 correlation points.
Wow.
So when you stand in the Helena Valley, there are 5 mountains, including the Sleepy Giant, that were once biological beings. And the underground penetrating radar shows that the cavity of the eye is perfectly correct. We have the lens is still there. The whole eye anatomy is intact, frozen into minerals. These are as big as mountains, are all over here. We have humans and dragons together. And so that whole right thing there, that's a human face. It's that large. It's that whole thing you're seeing. Both eyes, the mouth, the face, the teeth. Perfect. And they're right here in the Montana Megalith.
By the way, dragons are kind of like giant salamanders too. You know, well, the salamanders are nature beings, but the dragons were also. I mean, there are other star systems where beings are like dragons.
I have a totally different take on that.
Okay, what's that?
And my take is that all the legends of the dragons that you hear about, they guarded the gold, they were the wise ancient languages, they were totally, completely conscious, a much higher level being than we as physical beings are. And they were part of the creators. And in fact, there's a couple of native medicine men that when I show them the dragons, they just start speaking to them, like, you know, and they've been talking to them for years, and they identify them by name, and they, I didn't realize you were here in Montana. They had this incredible conversation. And so the legends, think of all the legends. Everywhere in the world there's legends of dragons, right? Yeah. And the dragons hoarded the gold. All the nations came here to mine gold. The dragons hoarded the gold. They were the ancient wise beings. And of course, when the Christian church came along, they had to slay the dragons to defile their knowledge and all their power. And so they moved into myth. But each legends I look into, they're always dragons.
I'd like to be able to breathe fire all the time.
And some of these humans next to them are very burnt. They look totally black. And so, in my understanding, I might have had conversations with a few, not like the people I take there. I mean, they're like old buddies, right? I found the dragon that I had conversations with, and teaching me that these were sentient beings that came to Earth that helped human.
Right.
Until the dark side
perverted it. Yeah.
Perverted it.
Yeah.
And every dragon I've seen just feels wonderful to me. Just wonderful. It's like, you know, and treats me extremely well and shows me a nest.
Yeah.
And so you'll see on my website, there's a place called Dragon's Lair, L-A-I-R, and they're just all lined up at night.
I think they're like dolphins, but in the fire element.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They're very super conscious. Okay.
Super conscious.
Yeah.
Very, very
Just a couple more.
I have one quick question, David. How does, if you've been to Stonehenge, and how does that compare to the ley lines or the grids?
Boyd was there. He can tell you his experience. It was amazing. It was totally amazing.
Would that be more powerful there than you think, or?
Each one had its own power.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously now Stonehenge is not as activated as it used to be.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just a pittance of what it was, but it's still, you can feel the energy.
Yeah,
right.
You can feel it's just like you almost feel like you're getting sunburned.
Yeah,
really?
By the second,
intense.
because the vortex is very
Stonehenge has been rebuilt at least 3 times that we know of. And each time it's been rebuilt, it totally altered the energy.
Yeah.
So the Montana Megalith, he came here and he pulls out these spreadsheets. He's a scientist, and he starts rating everything. And when he finishes with all of his calculations, he says to me, and he's underneath and around all over, he says to me, on my authenticity scale, Stonehenge is about 82% because it has been rebuilt and completely altered. The Montana Megaliths are about 99% because they've never been altered. is still completely intact. Much larger. Stonehenge is 30 feet high. Evergreen Dome is 83.
Oh, yeah.
And here they set up to platforms, and there's another underneath them, on a platform, and another underneath it. They cleared it under the ground. And he says, they're much, much older. So we think Stonehenge was built in the Fourth World. This was built in the First and Second World. Somewhere. And the Third World and the Fourth World.
Wow.
Okay. And so now you know that they're trying to build a road under Stonehenge, I've heard. Yeah. Which will really take out the energy, because underground penetrating radar sensors are their cities under. They found where the blue stones came from in whales. Okay. Yeah. And I put on my site, and I know it just flashed way back. I'm looking at the quarry site of Stonehenge, the blue stones, and it's perfectly aligned, elliptical. The stones are standing up. They were already cut. They were already placed there by ancient civilizations, and in the Fourth World, they just moved them over to Stonehenge. Huh.
Yeah.
That was an ancient megalithic site that they transported to Stonehenge in the Fourth World. They were already quarried.
Wow. How do they transport them?
How did they transport all the pink granite in Lebanon in Aswan Quarry 1,000 miles?
Levitating.
Yeah.
Levitate.
They had
I
to
think
have
it was acoustic levitation. That's what the
acoustic levitation. Absolutely.